Hey there, this video is just going to be me going over each sentinel and giving general tips and advice and just an overall guide to each of them, how to play them, and some things you might not know about them. If you're more experienced in Forsaken, you'll probably know a lot of the things I'm going to talk about, but it's still worth it to stick around. Also, this video is definitely a longer one, so if you just want to skip to a certain survivor that you want to main or play more, there are timestamps in the description. Don't feel opposed to just go down there and click to the one you want to go to. Alright, now that that's out of the way, enjoy the video. Our first survivor is Guest is a very interesting sentinel. With him being the most popular by far, it's pretty common to see multiple of them per game, so something you need to take into consideration when playing him is being accustomed to playing with other guests who are trying to do the same thing you're doing. But now the question is, what is that? What should you be doing when playing guest? Overall, I like to think of there being two ways to play Guest. You can either play him incredibly passively, saving your punches for the right moment, or be hyper aggressive, trying to block for your teammates and parrying every attack the killer throws. Usually the latter is more effective, as that brings me to my next point. Your biggest job on Guest will be protecting your teammate. Due to Guest's health pool of 115 health, it allows you to take a lot of extra hits for survivors and still keep yourself up and moving. Something to note when body blocking is you should almost always run directly next to or pretty much inside of the person you're trying to block for. Guest has hit priority, so when you're playing against a character that can't hit multiple targets, basically anybody but Jason, you will always take the hit for that person if you are in the hitbox. This is incredibly useful and something I don't see people capitalizing on enough. If you're in the last couple of seconds and you take a hit for your Elliot or somebody who's at 1% HP, it can literally just win you the game. It is absolutely crucial that you are trying to protect as many people as you can while playing Guest. Your entire kit is basically built on protecting other people, so you should use it as such. It isn't a bad idea to use your block selfishly sometimes, but you should almost always try and use it in an advantageous position for everybody on your team, not just yourself. This brings me into a breakdown of all of Guest's abilities and what times you should be using them, little nifty tricks you can do with them, and all kinds of other things. The first ability we're going to start with is the block, as it's basically the entire backbone of Guest. I mean, to use one of your three abilities, you have to land your block, so you basically only have two until you use your block correctly. When it comes to blocking killers, if you're playing against an experienced killer, a lot of times they will just wait you out and not swing until you block, as they expect you to panic. The best way I know to deal with this is to fake run at them and juke around all their attacks until they are certain that you're just not going to do it anymore. So basically just juke 2 or 3 attacks, just never use your block until they actually start hitting you, and then catch them off guard and block at the perfect time. But again, if you're playing against experienced killers, there's a high chance you're just gonna miss your block. It happens to the best of us. Don't even sweat it. Just keep running and try and get another one. It's on like an 11-second cooldown, I believe, so it's not impossible to get it in another chase. With the resistance that block gives you, it also adds a extra layer to the whole body blocking thing, as you are able to take a hit even if you're at a deathly amount of health, as if you're like below 20 health and you take a block hit. You won't take that damage and you can take it for somebody else. There are a couple other things we can talk about with block, but I will save those for whenever we start talking about the punch, as they are much more easier to talk about there. Overall, as a quick recap for block, try and use it whenever 1, you're at low health, 2, to body block for somebody else, or 3, if you feel like you can get a stun off. Making distance is always important, and you should always just go for it if the opportunity's open, as the cooldown's almost nothing and you can wait it off and be ready to go. Moving on to Guest's second ability, the charge. The charge can be used as an almost pseudo parry. If a killer is swinging at you and you charge into them, as you hit them, if their attack connects with you, you will not take the damage for that, as it gives you like resistance, just like the block does, but it is a pretty tight window, and I wouldn't recommend going for it too often. Normally, you should be using charge whenever you want to make a little distance from the killer, or if you are out of stamina. Due to the helpless it gives the killer, it gives you a second to regain your stamina and run at least a little bit farther. Charge can also be used to throw a killer off of somebody's trail. If you are watching somebody get chased and you charge into the killer, 9 times out of 10, if it's a Jason or somebody with an up close ability, they will try and hit you, and it'll buy the other person that little bit of time they might need to escape. Now, while you might be tempted to charge when in a chase, Don't do it unless you are charging at the killer. You never want to charge for distance to get away from the killer, as that'll leave you with slowness 2 for about like 10 seconds, and it puts you at a massive disadvantage. Never do that. Never charge away from the killer, always charge into them. Charge is on a very long cooldown, so you don't want to just be using it whenever you don't need it. Always make sure whenever you're using your charge, it is for the better of somebody else or yourself. If you're in chase and the killer's chasing you, they're right next to you, charge them back. Speaking of charging back, that is a fun quirk about the charge. If you are running a killer up a staircase or an incline and you charge them at the top of that incline, most of the time it will send them flying all the way back down to the bottom of it. This doesn't work with people with a bad connection, but it can make you a ton of distance on places like the Brandon Works Castle. Do be careful when doing this though, as experienced killers might know about it and will just juke you and then kill you when you have the slowness 2. There are some other little niche techs you can do with charge, but most of them aren't very practical and won't really come up in games. So as a couple cliff notes for charge, use it whenever you see somebody in danger, the killer's near you, or you're out of stamina. Always charge into the killer, never charge away from them. And yeah, that's about it. Moving on to Guest's third and final ability, and the main draw that people love about him, the punch. This ability is locked until you land a block. You have to successfully parry a killer's block, and then you are able to punch. Punching right after a block will result in a parry punch, which stuns the killer for much longer than if you wait and stun him. You should always go for parry punches unless you need to save your punch for somebody else. It is normally a absolutely amazing idea to just stun him and then take that 3.5 second stun, as opposed to saving your punch and getting that 1 second stun. The 1 second stun can be very helpful, and sometimes saving your punch will get you out of a sticky situation. Really just play it by what you think is the best idea in that moment. Somebody's in a chase directly in front of you and you're body blocking for them, you get a punch, parry the killer. So you're getting a chase with somebody else or the killer's chasing you, take the punch and use it to save somebody else. While the normal punch stun isn't terrible, it is far from great, so try not to punch killers whenever you have other sentinels like Shedletsky's or Chance's present, as their stuns will stun them for way longer, and you don't want to punch him with your 1 second stun and then mess up a Shedletsky's sword. Your parry will stun for just as long as a Shed sword though, so don't be afraid to do that whenever you're near other sentinels. Also, try to get punches whenever necessary, as having a stun is always going to be better than not having a stun. Jason gashing wound is a big example of this. If a Jason is gashing wounding another survivor, that hitbox is present the entire time. Run up, press Q, and you will instantly gain a punch if you time it correctly. The timing is very lenient though, so if you just run in there, press Q while he's gashing wounding, 9 times out of 10 you will get the punch. The timing is much tighter on this, but you can also do it with 1x's mass infection, specifically the melee hitbox. I wouldn't recommend going for this though, but it can be really cool. Another quick thing is, don't be afraid to use punches selfishly in the event you need to. If the killer just has eyes for you and wants you dead, use your punches to the best of your ability and save your blocks to try and save other people if they need it. But always try and block and punch for yourself if the killer is chasing you. The block is on such a low cooldown that it doesn't really matter again. And punch has its own separate cooldown, so if you block, then land a punch, then block him again whenever your cooldown's up, your punch will not be ready and you'll have to wait another cooldown. Also, you always want to be sure that you are able to land the punch, as whiffing punches can be very bad, especially against killers like Jason or 1x that have immediate ways to punish you. Jasons will normally just gashing wound you the second they see you miss it, and that's never fun. So you always want to try and angle it correctly, and if you do whiff, it's not the end of the world. You can take it on the chin and keep going, but you never want to miss, obviously. As a quick recap for punch, you always want to parry punch given the opportunity. You want to save your punches to save other people unless you are in chase yourself, in which go ahead and use it, doesn't really matter. Be sure to use the little lunge forward that the punch does to your best ability, as sometimes this will allow you to get stuns you otherwise would have missed. And whenever your block is up, always try to get a punch if you see an opportunity fit. Never be scared, as your health will pretty reliably give you something to fall back on. Overall, Guest is a really mind game heavy survivor. All it's about is getting in the killer's head and getting them to hit your block. Sometimes it'll feel like every killer just can predict you and knows exactly when you're gonna block, but it's really just about getting in their head before they get in yours. Not panicking is the best way to play Guest, but it is quite hard, I cannot lie. Once you master Guest, he can feel like the best survivor in the game. It just takes time. He is a very strong survivor in the right hands, but don't beat yourself up over missing blocks or missing punches. It'll be alright. You keep going, and I believe in you. You'd be the best Guest there ever is. I will now provide some closing thoughts on Guest, and we will move to our next survivor. Shedletsky is another very interesting sentinel in that he is also incredibly popular, just like Guest. So most of the time whenever you play him, you also have to play around the fact that you'll have multiple on your team at once. This isn't a bad thing, as more stuns is always going to be good. It just requires you to play a little differently, as you don't want to be doing the exact same thing the other Shedletsky's doing. Shedletsky's two abilities consist of a sword slash, which stuns the killer for 3 seconds if it connects, and fried chicken, which heals Shedletsky for 35 HP across the span of 10 seconds. The chicken also only has 2 uses per game. Shedletsky is kinda similar to Guest in the way that you want to be protecting your teammates over everything else whenever you're playing him. Your sword slash is a great way to get the killer off of people and to focus you. While you don't have any extra health like Guest, you do have a heal which gives you a large amount of self-sustain. The main ways to play Shedletsky effectively are playing very passively and keeping your sword slash to yourself, only bettering yourself and getting yourself to last man standing. Shedletsky is an absolute powerhouse in LMS due to his slash and heal, leaving him normally at full health at last man standing and with a 3-second stun in his back pocket. The other way to play Shedletsky is what I like to call the overlooker playstyle, where you kind of hover around Chase and look for opportunities to get in and slash. With the very hefty wind up on Shed's sword, it is very hard to just run up to the killer and swing at them. Most of the time they'll just move out of the way because they know it's coming. So pretty much all the time you need to have it when they're locked in an animation or when they don't expect you to be there, like when you're around a corner or something. With the basics of Shedletsky out of the way, I'm now going to go into a dive into his 2 abilities, when you should use them, and how to maximize efficiency with them. As mentioned earlier, Sword Slash stuns the killer for 3 seconds, but has a wind up of 1.5 seconds. This is usually more than enough time for a killer to react and move out of the way, especially if they know you're going to do it. So normally it's best to run around corners and fake going one way or fake. You want to get in the killer's head and mind game them into just being scared of your slash. The strongest part of Shed isn't even the slash, it's the killer's thought that you might slash them. If you just never slash a killer and they are constantly scared of you, you can just continuously make distance if you just fake them out. Fake them out. You can just keep making distance that way, but eventually they will catch on and probably start to being less scared of you, in which case you can normally hit them with a very solid stun. As stated earlier, the best time to use slash is around corners, when somebody else is in chase, or if the killer's locked in a lengthy animation. Like 1x charging up a mass infection, or John Doe using his spikes, you can just run up to them, slash, and cancel the ability. Another rather overlooked part about Shedletsky's slash is that it gives you resistance 2 for 0.5 seconds the second you activate it. So you can tank a little bit of damage while using your slash, but do not rely on it as it does not last very long. But as a quick recap for slash, basically, use it around corners and be unpredictable with it. Always be as unpredictable as possible so you can maximize your chances of landing it. If you miss a slash, it's not the end of the world. Don't even worry about it. Most of the time you'll end up just taking 1 hit, and with a 35 health heal in your back pocket, it's nothing to worry about. Try to scare the killer with the threat of you slashing before you actually slash. Like, fake them out a couple times so that they might get closer to you and you can have a higher chance of hitting them. Again, that's all it comes down to, is getting that higher chance of hitting the slash so they don't just predict you and you waste it. And finally, if you see anybody in chase and a killer starts using an ability that locks them in place, like a 1x mass infection, John Doe's spikes, or a Noli teleport even, go up and try and stun him. It is worth the cooldown to try and possibly save somebody's life. Always go for it. It's worth it, I promise. But that just about concludes Slash. I will now move on to his fried chicken ability, which is much more simple in concept. It literally just heals you 35 health over the span of 10 seconds, as I stated earlier. The heal will be completely interrupted if you get hit by pretty much anything while the effect is going on, so do keep that in mind. If a killer is chasing you, you can't really get away with eating it mid-chase if you make enough distance, as they'll catch up, hit you once, and you won't get any of the healing. I would almost always recommend you use your chicken before going and taking an Elliot pizza, as it is definitely better to leave the pizzas for the other members of your team that don't have a built-in heal. The exception to this obviously being if you're in chase yourself, go ahead and take the pizza. It wouldn't matter. One final thing to keep in mind with fried chicken is that it is on a 70-second cooldown. So once you use your first chicken, you will have to wait 70 seconds before you can use your other one. So it might be best to seek out other forms of healing in that time if you are very low. I don't believe we need a recap for the chicken, as it's pretty straightforward. It's just a very strong heal and something that is very crucial to Shedletsky's kit. It is one of the strongest abilities in the game, and yeah, it's amazing. Overall, Shedletsky is a much more straightforward character than Guest is, but he is very, very hard to master. You need to get down the timing of your slash and everything, as most killers will just be completely scared of you and predict everything you do. So whenever you get down to it though, he is an incredibly strong survivor, and he's absolutely amazing. I'll now add my closing thoughts for Shedletsky, and we'll move on to the next Sentinel. Two-Time is an incredibly interesting Sentinel, as he's the only character in the game to be completely reworked into a different class than what he originally was. The original Two-Time was much more of a survivalist type character. He had no stun and no way to do really anything. He was honestly kind of terrible. And the reworked Two-Time now gives him the knife and a refurbished version of his respawn. I personally really enjoy playing Two-Time, as his gameplay loop forces you to get into the killer's face and go for stuns if you want your respawn. Your respawn only is available whenever you get 2 backstabs or 4 front stabs. Two-Time is also probably the most complicated mechanically out of all the Sentinels, which isn't really saying much as he's not very complicated. It's just you have to do a lot of moving parts to get him to work very well, but once you get it down, he's very, very strong. Two-Time's main 3 abilities consist of his dagger, which just puts a hitbox in front of you. If you're behind the killer, you will get a backstab and stun them. If you're in front of the killer, it'll just give them helpless for a second so they can't hit you, and it gives you a little bit of time to get away. The second ability he has is his crouch, which when combined with the dagger lunges Two-Time forward almost like a guest charge, but not quite as far. It can apply the same stun and helpless that the dagger does, just adding the dash onto it. Also, when Two-Time crouches, he becomes undetectable, so he can hide from aura reading abilities like 1x's eye and Jason's raging pace. And the third and final ability that Two-Time has is his ritual. This is what allows Two-Time to respawn in the first place, so before you even get any of the juice you need to respawn, whether that be through backstabs or front stabs, you have to have this ritual down somewhere on the map. Wherever you have it down, whenever you reach 0 health, that's where you'll respawn. I'll talk more about it whenever we get into the inner workings of all of his abilities and when you should use them, but for now all you should really know is that you should most definitely put it somewhere that the killer will never check. Now that we have all the basics for Two-Time out of the way, we are going to go into a deep dive of all of his abilities, when you should use them, and what situations are the best for each one. We'll start with the dagger, as it's probably the most recognizable thing about Two-Time other than the fact that he can, well, respawn. But when getting a backstab with the dagger, it wields a 3.5 second stun, which is slightly longer than a Shedletsky stun, and it also heals the Two-Time for 20 health. Front stabs will also heal you, but it'll only be for 10 HP, and you'll give helpless 1 to the killer for 1 second instead of stunning them. When going in for a stab with the dagger, it is incredibly risky due to your low health pool. Two-Time only has 80 health to work with, so getting hit is a major issue, and you need to play around Elliots or medkits to pretty much stay alive until you can get your respawn. A general rule of thumb is you always want to kind of get in and out with Two-Time. When it comes to stuns, most of the time you want to be crouched and lunge at the killer instead of just going and pressing Q, as the lunge will give you that buffer time of stabbing the killer and give you enough time to run away. I'll talk more about that whenever we get to the crouch section, as this is kind of just about the dagger for now. But stabbing the killer in the back is obviously what you want to go for all the time, but if you are in a chase, that becomes a significant amount harder. So don't be afraid to just settle for a front stab. Front stabs will give the killer a little bit of slowness and helpless, so it can give you a little bit of time to run away. Also, with the 10 health, that can save your life. You could live another hit with that. But you always want to get your meter filled and get as many stabs as you can as quick as possible. You always want to have your second life as just a safety net due to the fact that you have 80 health. You are inherently fragile, and that second life is just such good insurance. While you can be a bit of a team player on 2-time, going in and stunning the killer is obviously always going to help your team. It is a far bit more harder to play for your team than it would be on like a Shedletsky or a guest due to your 80 health and 40 if you're in your respawn. It makes it a whole lot harder to, well, take hits. So most of the time your assistance with your team will be stunning the killer with a dash or doing whatever to get eyes on you and run, pretty much. Overall, as a quick recap for the dagger, you want to get in, stab the killer, and run as fast as you can to gain your health and your charge for your respawn. You can help out your team members by crouching and dashing at killers from a long distance to buy them some more time in a chase. And you can also back up and stab into a killer in chase if you want to try and go for it. It is a bit risky, but it can result in some pretty BS backstabs. Our next ability is the crouch, but I've already gone over it in pretty good detail. The main draw of it is it allows you to dash forward really far with your knife. But the other things it does, it adds invisibility 3 and undetectable 2 to the 2-time for at most 10 seconds, because that's how long you can stay crouched. To prevent you from just hiding in a corner and crouching all the time, if a 2-time is very far from the killer, you will receive slowness 2 for 15 seconds and be revealed to the killer. This is only normally an issue in Last Man Standing if your respawn is across the map and you crouch to block the aura reading. It will give you away whenever you stand back up. If the 2-time crouches and uncrouches close to the killer, they will gain speed 2 for 1 second. This doesn't really do too much, but it is nice to have. I don't believe we need a recap for this one, as it is quite simple. It kind of just makes you stealthier and gives you another option with your dagger. Moving on, we have the ritual next. Respawn is an ability that can be put down anywhere on the map, but you normally want to put it very far away in like remote corners that the killer would never look. Whenever you are brought down to 0, you will respawn at wherever you placed your ritual. If you make it to Last Man Standing, you will automatically be respawned where you placed your ritual. It'll increase your max health to 110 and heal you for up to 40 HP. This is only in Last Man Standing though. Normally, whenever you get your bar full, if you respawn at your ritual, you will respawn with 40 health and you will spawn with weakness 5. You do get speed 2 for 6 seconds though, so you can run away from the killer and you can get really far if your respawn's on the other side of the map. The killer will get no time for killing you if they kill you and you respawn, so you can waste so much time having a killer chase you if you know you have your second life, which that is the best thing to do. If you are mid-chase and you front stab the killer, filling your bar up, you should not just give in and let him kill you so you can respawn across the map. Run the chase as long as you can, and if he commits to you, that's more time wasted. Another tip that is quite obvious, but I see happen way too often, is 2-times running killers to where their respawn is. Stay as far away from your respawn point as you can. If you get your bar full and then respawn directly in front of the killer, it doesn't do very much for you, as you'll have that weakness 5 and he will just one-shot you. But I mean, that's pretty much it for respawn. Keep it out of the killer's sight where he would normally look. Try to fill the bar as quick as you can by getting your stabs. And don't lure the killer anywhere near it. Once they get eyes on it, they will know that's where you're gonna respawn. Overall, 2-time is again another incredibly strong survivor when used in the right hands. Don't worry about missing stabs, don't worry about messing up your respawn, it's all part of learning. 2-time is very complicated and it takes some time to master all of his abilities. I play them in a very chaotic and disorganized way, so I don't know how qualified I am to talk about everything to do with them, but I hope I was able to clarify at least some of the more confusing bits. I'll now give my closing thoughts for 2-time, and we'll go to the last and final sentinel of the video. Chance is another absolutely insanely powerful survivor. He has arguably the best stun in the game with his gun. Although it has a chance of exploding and not firing, it's still a ranged stun which is not present anywhere else in the game. The range on his gun is absolutely insane. It is nuts. But Chance's main 4 abilities consist of his coin flip, which lets him use all of his other 3 abilities, his gun, which is, like I said before, just a ranged stun ability, his reroll, which lets him reroll his health, and his hat fix, which lets him get rid of all of his weakness. I'll go into all of these in detail now. Starting with the coin flip. Whenever Chance flips his coin, he has a 50-50 shot of getting heads or tails. Whenever he lands heads, he gains 1 charge. 1 charge that lets him use any of his other 3 abilities. You can stack up to 3 charges, and that increases your odds of getting something good from those 2 abilities. Those 2 being the gunshot and the reroll. A higher stat count will make your gun go off more often, and will give you a much higher chance to reroll higher health when rerolling. Coin flip is literally the backbone of Chance, as you wouldn't be able to use anything without it, but other than that, yeah, that's it. It's nothing too special. Moving on to the main draw of Chance, his gun. The gun has a massive range and stacks, like I said earlier, with the chances of it going off. If you try to fire your gun at 1 stack, you'll have a 50% chance of it going off, a 25% chance of it not going off, and a 25% chance of it exploding in your face. At 2 stacks, you have a 70% chance of it going off, 15% chance for it not to, 15% chance for it to explode. And at 3, you have a 90% chance for it to fire, 5% chance to not go off, and 5% chance to explode. Overall, you pretty much always want to be at 3 stacks before you fire your gun, as it exploding in your face is one of the worst things that can happen. Not only will you take a lot of damage, but you'll also have to roll 3 more heads rolls to use the hat fix ability to fix your gun if it explodes on you. So the general best strategy for Chance and the gun is to roll until you have 3 and then just sit on it until the killer gets near you or is in chase with somebody else. Keep in mind, the range for Chance's gun is about 90 studs, so you can pretty much snipe people from the other sides of maps sometimes. It is absolutely insane. You should always be looking out to help people that are in chase with just cross map shots or anywhere you can get them. That's not to say don't use your gun selfishly, but you always want to try and help people when you can, as rerolling takes almost no time. Do be careful when rerolling though, as if you do land tails, you get a stack of weakness, and that will stack exponentially until you use your hat fix ability. Chance's second ability is the reroll, which literally just lets him reroll his health. It can give him the highest amount of health in the game at 125, I believe, and it is absolutely insane. This also can increase the odds with how many charges you have, with higher charges giving you a higher chance to get a higher number. Not too much to recap there, it's just rerolling your health. Chance's final ability is the hat fix. It's the only one of his abilities that requires all 3 charges to activate, but it resets all of your weakness buffs from rolling tails and will fix your gun if it's broken. Overall, Chance is incredibly fun to play. They can definitely be one of the strongest survivors in the game if you are able to capitalize on their abilities. Unfortunately, it's obviously incredibly RNG dependent, that's the entire gimmick of them, but it is such a cool concept. I love Chance. For some closing thoughts as Chance, as this one is much shorter than all of the other ones, always keep your gun available and ready to help other people. Only fire your gun at 3 stacks, and normally reroll at 3, but 2 is alright as well. The best time to hat fix is when you are at an ungodly amount of weakness where the killer can literally just one-shot you. And always be careful not to get caught out with high weakness. Only flip coins if you're sure you're either going to die or are in a safe position. It is also not a bad idea to flick around in chase and shoot killers. I'll probably have some gameplay footage playing where I do this exact thing, but you can catch killers off guard by activating your shot facing away from them and then flicking to them at the last moment. Anyways, I'll give my closing thoughts on Chance, and I'll be wrapping up the video. Hey, thank you so much for sticking around to the end of the video. If you enjoyed this one, go check out my one I made for all the support characters. I'll probably end up doing one for survivalists as well at some point, so look out for that. But again, I thank you so much for watching till the end, and subscribe!